I know those big name pastors can turn their sermons into books and sell tons of copies, but can any pastor do that and actually make money as an author? Well, missionary and author Danny Davis says, yes, you can. And he'll share his pathway to profits as a self published author while serving as a missionary in East Africa in this episode of the More Than a Pastor Show. Let's get started. Hello, my friend. Welcome to the More Than a Pastor Show. I'm Rich Avery, your host. This is a show where we help pastors, missionaries, and other ministry leaders to grow your income and build financial security. We'll help you take your skills, experience, and ministry know-how and leverage them into sustainable income outside the church through a business or a side hustle that's right for you so you can serve God and provide for your family no matter what. Hey, thanks so much for joining me today. It's really great to be with you. I hope you're doing well and enjoying a great season of ministry as we turn the corner after the holiday season and as we come into the new year. Just hope you're doing well and had some rest after the holidays and ready to kick it into gear here in the year 2025. But hey, if you're new to the show, I want to give you a special welcome. I'm really glad that you're here, and I really appreciate you joining us for the show today. If you'd like to learn more about me, check out the blog post and show notes for this episode, and check out some free resources to help you grow your income and build financial security. You'll find all of those things over at my website at morethanapastor.com/71 for episode 71. Hey, I'm so glad to have my friend Danny Davis back with us for part 2 of our conversation, which we started in the last episode. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, I encourage you to go check that out. That's episode 70. Last time, Danny and I talked about his 30-plus years of ministry as a pastor, church planter, missionary, and equipper, and how he began to leverage his ministry experience into books and other resources that inspire and bless others and generate multiple streams of income for his family. I also asked Danny why he feels strongly about pastors creating income outside the church, and he took us into the backstory of his new book, The Way of the Shepherd, and we explore why the message of Psalm 23 is needed in the church and in our world now more than ever. So if you haven't already checked out episode 70, be sure to do that. On today's episode, Danny shares valuable insights that he's learned in his journey as an author and how any pastor, missionary, or ministry leader can create sustainable income through writing. Danny and I talk about his pathway to self-publishing and how that's been a game changer for him, and why he says you should never work with a publisher who charges pricey upfront fees or makes you buy bulk copies of your book. His answer just might surprise you. He shares 5 lessons learned in becoming a self-published author and 6 keys for building a profitable writing platform. To learn more about Danny, you'll find him online at equippedservant.com. And now let's dive into part 2 of our conversation with Danny Davis. You said you've had the passion for writing since you were a kid. Now worked through the imposter syndrome, wrote other books, started your own publishing imprint. That sounds like you're pretty committed to writing, and maybe also making money from it. Not, some people write for the love of writing, and maybe everyone writes for the love of writing. But then I've heard that a lot of writers never make any money. They never really make money from what they do. But it seems like you've had a goal of kind of creating some kind of a revenue stream from this. And has self-publishing been a better avenue for that than traditional publishing? Maybe would you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think self-publishing is to me a better. Here's the thing, okay? Again, I had a great experience with a traditional publisher, but honestly, they publish books, they don't market them.
Mm.
And the only way, and that's pretty much true of almost all traditionally published or publishing houses. I recently had an interview with a publishing house who was interested in at some things that we were working on, and they came to me and it's like, okay, well, you need to have 10,000 social media followers. You need to have an
Mm.
email list of 15,000 people. You need, and they began to list the things that I needed. And I thought, no, whoa, time out, time out. I don't have all of that in fullness, but I have a very good pool of what I'm doing, of contacts and all this.
Mm.
But you're going to borrow that and market based on the work that I've done, and then
Mm.
charge me to market from, and by taking a higher percentage of royalty and things like
Mm.
that. And that's when I realized, hey, wait a minute, I have unknowingly put together the elements that I needed to be able to begin this process on my own. Now, I'm not
Mm.
taking in other writers and things like that. I mean, it's an imprint solely for releasing the work that I'm doing.
Mm.
Although that's not out of the question, right? To help other writers get through
Yeah.
there. But what I learned was that writing is the easy part.
Mm.
Writing a book. Now I say easy. It, it, it's not easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I write Christian living books. I write books that deal with topics like identity, who we are in Christ.
Mm.
Some things that deal with internal issues of the spirit. Um, that's hard because I'm pretty open about struggles that I've had with obesity, open, with growing up in domestic violence, a lot of things like that. But it's not all my stories.
Mm.
But but writing that's hard, but marketing is the harder part, right?
Mm.
So learning that I can have the greatest story in the world, but if I don't know how to put it out there, if I don't know how to draw people to that, if I don't know how to do basic marketing type things, then nothing happens. And then
Mm.
obviously without marketing, there's no income.
Yeah.
And so you have to wrap your mind around the fact that I'm going to have to spend some money because I'm actually in business,
Mm.
right? I'm not, nobody else is doing this for me. I'm in business. And so I have to spend some money.
Mm.
Now I set a budget and I say, okay, I've got this amount of money. I'm not going in debt for this. I'm going to spend this amount of money for producing the content, right?
Mm.
So, you need editors. Uh, I think that's one of the myths, and I want to hammer this home for some of those who might
Yeah,
be thinking, I
please.
want to write a book. I'll just sit down in 3 days and I'll pop something out and throw it up on Amazon and
That's not how it
and
works.
yeah, yeah. I wish it was how it worked,
Mm.
but you got to spend some money. Uh,
Mm.
you know, you got to pay an editor, and I've had people. Matter of fact, I was just coaching someone through their book the other day, and they're like, "Yeah, I've self-edited the book, and I've had some friends look at it, and I think it's okay." And I'm like, "Okay, you're in a business, and you're using this book as kind of your business card, and you're just saying, it's okay."
Mm.
No, you're going to have to spend that money and let that editor make you look good, right?
Wow. Yep.
Because you want to put that out there. So you got to wrap your mind around the fact that this is a business. I'm not just taking my sermons, which is a lot of what I do, to be quite honest with you. I take my
Mm.
sermons, I
Mm. Oh
rework
yeah.
them, I add to them, I do these things, and I create content. I create a book. I know the audience that I'm writing to, and I make the commitment to spend some money so that I can begin. And I got to get comfortable with taking a loss, a little bit
Mm.
of a loss. Statistically, now this is for the fiction world. You tend to have, after about 20 books, is when you start seeing.
Mm.
So I have a friend that made $1.8 million last year. He writes cozy mysteries for about people in nursing homes who solve mysteries.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
And he made $1.8 million last year. He spent 500,000 on Facebook ads to reach 60 to 80-year-old women who spent $1.8 million to buy his books, right? But he didn't
Wow.
start seeing that till about book 15, 16, 17, 18. Now, the nonfiction world where I'm at is a bit different because we don't typically write in series,
Mm.
but you're going to be a unicorn if you write one book and make $1 million on it. And let's just put
Okay,
it
yeah.
where it's at. Okay. Um, and if you and if you don't market it, so So you got to put content out there.
Hmm.
But again, we're talking to pastors who are producing content every single week.
Yeah.
All right. So don't reinvent the wheel. I think
Hmm.
if you know John Stange,
Yep.
I'm saying exactly what he's saying is don't
Hmm.
reinvent the wheel. Take the content you have, use that content as your foundation, begin to put it out there,
Hmm.
add to it, take away, get some of the references to your church or to your kids' stories that they don't want published in a book, right? Out of there, find some, and rework that.
Hmm.
And I purposely keep my books to 200 between 150 200 pages
Hmm.
because number one, that's what I'm comfortable writing. Number two, people are more apt in the nonfiction world to read that length of a book,
Okay.
right? And I'm trying to solve a problem. But yeah, and so what I'm saying all that, forgive me, to say you got to be willing to take a little bit of a loss
Hmm.
as you're learning, as you're growing in your writing. So you got two sides to this business. You're a writer, you got to do it well.
Hmm.
I'm still developing that craft. I still struggle with grammar and, not ending a sentence with a preposition and when to use this kind of dash or that kind of dash. And, but on the other side, I set aside 2 hours a week just to do nothing but to research, just 2 hours to research marketing.
Hmm.
How do I market? How do I build a newsletter? How do I run successful Facebook ads? What
Hmm.
about Amazon ads? Things like this. Because without that, you're not in business. You're just writing books to put out there, and your grandma's going to buy one, and uh, maybe you set a table up in the back of your church and all that
Yeah.
or whatever, and you sell a few hundred, maybe 100 books or whatever, and then the life of that book is over.
Hmm.
But if you're looking at this as a business, that life's got to extend. And so
Okay.
for this new book that I've just put out, I've actually hired a publicity company. I spent the money that we're walking through a 10-week, what we call a
Hmm.
virtual book tour, where
Okay.
by the end of that tour, my the opportunity to buy my book will be put in front of 1.3 million viewers.
Hmm.
All right. So we're in the early stages of that. It's going to run all the way up till Christmas.
Awesome.
Um, and but 5 years ago, I would have been like, why is my book not selling? I
Hmm.
wrote this book and everybody should love it and they should all buy it because I'm a pastor and I need money. Right.
Hmm.
And it just doesn't work that way. Am I
Yeah.
making sense? Like I know I'm
Yep.
kind of bouncing around, uh, but if you gotta have a plan. The book's
Hmm.
the easy part,
Hmm.
right? I I write 90 minutes a day.
Hmm.
So when I'm writing my book, I don't have time to write 10 hours for a day. I've got
Yep.
another job. Um, I'm in the next 4 weeks, I'm going to travel 1,000 miles by car on some very difficult roads
Hmm.
to teach and train pastors. But so I won't be writing during that time. But in between there, I'll take 90 minutes a day, 5 days a week. I
Hmm.
write 90 minutes, I shut off, I go on to the rest of what I need to do. If not, number one, it's a discipline that I,
Yeah.
I got to develop. Number two, that's the time I have.
Hmm.
And then I set aside 2 hours a week to study marketing.
Hmm. That's
And
awesome.
yeah, so I mean, my news feed looks like my news feed is nothing about how to sell a book and what to do. And it's like I don't have anything else
Hmm.
going on in my life.
Oh, that's
And
great.
yeah, so take yourself seriously. Number one,
Okay.
if you're going to do it, take yourself seriously.
Yep.
Right, get the help, get a coach, get an editor,
Hmm.
get someone to walk this journey with you who can help you avoid some mistakes and get out there. And number two, just commit yourself to learning the business of it all.
Hmm. Yeah.
And there are there are two things. Well, I know I keep saying one, two, three, or four, but but there's an amazing number of scam artists
Hmm.
in this industry.
Okay.
Okay, so I would say for every one legitimate publisher, there's probably 30 illegitimate publishers
Hmm.
who are going to take your money.
Yep.
They're going to charge you $10,000 to produce a book that they're not going to market.
Hmm.
They're just going to take your money and you're going to think and you're going to sell 100 copies and be done, right?
Yeah.
So the rule of thumb is if they charge you to print it, they're not a real publisher, right? So
Okay.
so you have vanity presses, you have hybrid presses, you have these things. Man, technology has moved us so far beyond that between
Hmm.
Amazon KDP, Ingram Spark, Draft to Digital, uh, Publish Drive Publish or Publish Drive, one or the other, that work with you for no charges whatsoever. I mean, I
Mm.
could literally produce a book for $0. It might not be the most quality because I don't have a good editor and things like that, but you could, you could. Um, uh, but just I would just say be careful. If they're saying you got to buy 5,000 books up front,
Yeah.
things like that, just
Yeah.
walk away.
You're saying there's a better way. Yeah.
There's a better way. There's a
That's
better
awesome.
way.
Well, I love how you have taken your curiosity and you've dedicated yourself to learning the system and learning what works and how to not just think of it as a one-off kind of exercise, but how could I create a platform around this? How could I create a business around this? And some of the notes I took, you say it takes money to make money. You have to be realistic about being willing to invest to make it worth someone's time to buy it. Um, Momentum grows over time. Like, it's maybe not just one book, but it's several books, and then over time, you kind of build an ecosystem around that, and
Right.
all of a sudden, people read Danny's book, and now they want the next book, and then they want the next book because they know
Right.
you fill a need, you touch their heart with the way you share. So consistency is important as you continue to share. The a big one that I love that you touched on too is the fact that you took what you already had. You took your sermons you've already created, and I know I talk to people who often think I have to come up with some amazing new idea or some new product or service to start a business, and it's like, what if God's already given you the resources, the know-how,
Right.
the content that you need? We pray for God's provision, but what has He already provided and put into us? And you've just taken what He's already given you a message to share, and you found a way to share it with thousands or millions more people than who would have heard it in your sermon on a Sunday morning or whenever in some village somewhere. So
Yeah. And it's, I mean, it's a biblical principle, right? What do you
mm,
have in your hand?
mm,
You know, what do you have in your hand?
yeah,
If you're faithful with the few things, it makes you ruler over many things, right? So
mm,
it's this principle of um, stewarding
yeah,
the gift, the abilities that God has given you. And why not? I mean, why not use that as a way to bless your family and others at the same time?
yeah,
It's to me, it's just wisdom to take.
mm,
Now, I do a weekly blog, um, um, and I've consistently put that out there. Never missed a week in 2.5 years, right?
wow,
And the blog focuses on learning how to read, study, and apply the Bible, right?
mm,
So we just hit 10,000 monthly visitors on the blog after 2.5 years, right? But then
awesome,
that becomes a way. So I'm producing content there that will probably someday, be put into another book. And but You said the word consistency, and I wanted to hit on that.
mm,
You, you got to be consistent in setting aside time. Got to be consistent in learning, but you got to be consistent in producing content. And pastors are already doing that.
mm,
I
yeah,
tell my students Sunday comes around every week,
mm-hmm,
right? It's like whether you like it or not,
mm,
as a pastor, everything revolves toward that Sunday, or and it you're not going to last long if you stand up and say, I just didn't have time this week to get something
mm, yeah.
prepared. Most churches get a little touchy about that, and like, we came here for, and so why not take that content and just do something else with
Mm,
it?
that's
Now,
great.
I I learned to do sermon prep in manuscript form. Like, I
Mm,
don't do outlines, I do manuscript.
yep.
That Either way, it doesn't matter because now think of it this way: you say, "Well, man, I just don't have time to redo my content." Or while I was preaching, I went off notes and I said some things that weren't in my notes, but they came to me as I was preaching. We all have
Mm,
that experience, right? Well, the vast majority of churches today are recording their sermons, right?
oh
Either
yeah.
to put out on the website or whatever. Well, thank God for technology. Now I don't even have to, I can just pull up that video, pull up that recording, use a
Yeah.
transcription service.
Mhm.
It'll pull all those words out. I don't lose maybe the Lord led me to say
Yeah.
that I didn't think of in study and
Good
all
point.
that. And so between your notes, the
Mhm.
recording, and then a little bit of writing coaching to say what, moving forward, you could you could do some, I mean, the content's there. It's just a matter of
Mhm.
organizing it, putting it together,
Yeah.
and
That's great.
moving forward.
That's great. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to start writing some books. Like Danny said, over the years, I know I've developed so much content that can easily be parlayed into multiple books that can serve more people and generate more income for myself. What about you? Could you see yourself turning your sermons or other content into books in 2025? If so, I'd love it if you'd let me know. I'd love to encourage you along the way as we both pursue that goal together. You can email me at rich@morethanapastor.com. Or do you think it's not possible for you? If so, I'd love to know your reason why, and maybe I could turn that into a future episode that can maybe encourage and help others who have the same challenge or question or doubt that you have. Personally, I've always thought it would be great to have a traditionally published book. But as I hear Danny and many other self published authors talk about how those publishers require you to have a huge audience today and how they don't really help you with the marketing of your book, I'm realizing the wisdom of creating my own self publishing ecosystem over time. And truly, it's never been easier or cheaper to do. In our conversation today, I picked up on 6 keys to building a profitable writing platform that Danny shared. Key number 1 is to leverage existing content. And that's so easy for us as pastors because we've already created so much content that we can share, that we can put together into books or courses or other materials. We don't have to create something from scratch. The second point Danny shared is that consistency is critical. Success really does come through regularity, from creating something on a regular basis. And so Danny said that, if you have a blog or a podcast, or if you're putting out weekly content, you're growing a dedicated audience, and that can serve as a foundation for future books or other projects. The third point is that momentum is built over time. Writing isn't just a one off activity, it's really about creating an ecosystem. One book can lead to another. You could create a series that can keep your readers engaged and wanting not just one book, but your next book and the one after that as well. If you can create consistent quality content over time, you can build a loyal audience, and that'll serve you well for years to come. Point number 4 Danny made is that you really need to invest in the process. It takes money to make money. You need to invest in your work, whether it's hiring an editor or an artist to create a compelling book cover, or investing in the marketing of your book. Investing in yourself, in your product, demonstrates professionalism, makes your content more appealing to buyers, and it's really, I think, a matter of stewardship to create something with excellence that will serve your readers well and be something that you're proud of, that will stand the test of time. Point number 5 is to create a platform that meets practical needs. A book or a blog isn't just about content, it's about having a larger platform that serves people and isn't just like a one-off thing, but it meets specific needs that people have. If you can meet a need, if you can touch people's hearts, if you can solve a problem that your audience has, then they're going to appreciate that. They're going to want more of what you're doing, and that's going to help you grow an audience. Because if one person has that need or problem, there are tens of thousands of others who have that as well, who could be your potential customers or clients in the future. And the last point, number 6, is to make use of technology. Danny made the point that a lot of times pastors start with creating an outline or maybe a manuscript from their sermon. But even if you don't have anything to start with, Maybe if you are more like a person who wings it or who kind of ad libs as you go. The beauty of technology today is that if you record your sermon, you can create the transcript from the audio or the video of your sermon and can parlay that into a book. So whether you sit down and write an outline and flesh it out verbally, or whether you write out a complete manuscript of your sermon, you can use technology to turn that into a book or other resources that can be a blessing for others and can create a financial blessing for yourself as well. I'm so glad that Danny was willing to share his experiences here on the show, and I'm definitely going to incorporate these things that he shared in my book writing plan for 2025. If I had to pick just one thing to focus on, I think it would be that point number 2 about consistency. And I'll be honest, I know if you're already a long-term listener to the show, you already know that consistency is something I need to work on. I've not been super consistent in creating content on a regular weekly basis. But consistency is a goal for me, a top goal for 2025. I do want to release new content on a weekly basis and create content that adds value to your life and ministry. And so if I can get in a consistent rhythm of producing content for my show on a weekly basis, I know that'll help me have a consistent rhythm for writing the book that I want to produce in 2025 as well. Well, hey, that's it for today's show. Danny, thanks again for taking the time to join me on the show today. And listening friend, thank you for joining in as well. I really appreciate it. Hey, if you want to check out the blog post for this episode, you can just go to morethanapastor.com/71. You'll find the link to Danny's website there as well, and other resources I have available on the site. I hope this episode has been helpful for you. If it has been, why don't you take a moment and share it with someone else? Maybe post it on social media. Send it to someone who you think maybe they've been wanting to write a book but didn't know where to start. Maybe this could be a blessing and an encouragement for them. Anytime you share the podcast, it helps us to spread the word so that others can find it as well. We'd really appreciate it. Until next time, remember that you are more than a pastor. Saying yes to God's call doesn't mean you have to say yes to feeling stuck, broke, or unfulfilled in your life and ministry. Let's work together and help you create the life, impact, and income that you were made for.